I'm not one for vlogging, but I figured this might be a good opportunity to try it. And so this is the first installment of documenting this experience. This summer, in earnest, I decided to try and get on the next season of Penn Teller Fool Us. Certainly a big catalyst is the fact that we were in the middle of a pandemic. I figured this is a good time to be working on that, to try and do this thing to help the business. And also have been really enjoying the Abracababble podcast, which is hosted by Matt Donnelly and RJ Owens and Reddy Rich. And those guys have had some really great discussions about the behind the scenes of Fool Us. I have been thinking for a while now about submitting the Xray Vision routine. And I even tried a shortened version of it in front of real audiences back at the end of 2019. Again, sort of with the idea to submit to Fool Us at some point. In July of 2020, I attempted that in earnest, looking at the routine, tightening it up, cutting things, removing elements, reworking it so that it would come in at 4 or 5 minutes. And I shot a video in the basement with my lovely wife Christy acting as the volunteer. And I sent it out to some of the usual suspects, some of the guys who I trust to give feedback on things. But then I also went ahead and submitted it to Matt and RJ at Abracababble. What sort of started on Twitter as a joke about, oh man, I really hope if I ever get on the show, I'll be a lot more worried about what those guys have to say about the performance as opposed to what Penn and Teller have to say. And they were kind enough to basically reply and say, if you've got something, feel free to run it by us. So you know what? I took that very kind opportunity. So big thanks to all of the team, the people who I sent the video out to. So I sort of mulled all that over, figured out which elements I wanted to incorporate from those notes, and then I filmed another video. Hello, my name is Peter Wood, and I love to collect impossible things. And this is Sir Henry Willoughby, who allegedly had the gift of Xray Vision. And I submitted the video on August 3rd of 2020. And the next day, got an email back and from a production assistant saying that they were interested, which was crazy. I wasn't even sure what the timeline was like. The fact that I'm submitting it and it was, halfway through the season, I had no concept of if they had already cast the season 8 or anything. But thankfully, the timing worked out well. Submitted on August 3rd, heard back on August 4th, and then I had a phone chat with producers Lincoln Hyatt and Andrew Golder on August 5th. And they had nice things to say. They had a couple of questions, asked if they had some suggestions for script changes to be done. And so I went ahead and did a first pass at those script changes based on their suggestions. All good suggestions that I agreed with. And in many cases, vestiges of doing it in front of a live audience and fixing some problems that I had in front of a live audience that would not be a problem on television. So all really good stuff. So on August 11th, I got the email that I had been booked officially. Woo! And that I was actually going to be a part of the season. Shortly after the 11th, I got connected with my story producer, Ray Green. And Ray is going to be putting together the package, as it is called, the little pre-interview, the interview that comes before my segment. And in chatting with Ray about how this was going to be done, Previously, I would be in Vegas for several days, and part of one of those days would be going to a location somewhere in Vegas that kind of sort of fit the look and feel of my act, and then filming me doing short visual things that they could intercut with the interview portion, which will be done in front of a green screen, and they can plop in, therefore, whatever background. Ray explained that because of the COVID restrictions and an interest in keeping artists off property for as long as possible, that basically I was going to be on my own. I was really happy about that because I had the blessing of time. The fact that I could take as much time as I wanted, I mean, months of time to produce those elements on my own, in my own library, which is, I already love that space and it fits the character, and also just, making sure that I could submit takes that I really liked, and I could also maybe do some things that would require multiple takes in order to get just the right one, and then also I can showcase a bunch of stuff without having to schlep it to Las Vegas. So all of that is really good, and I was able to borrow some lighting equipment from Barry and Susie Taylor of Barry's Magic Shop fame. I was not able to tell them why I was borrowing it. I was able to get my friend Damon Melodoni's photographer extraordinaire to help me with the lighting setup and the camera settings. So basically, I've got all that set up in the basement parlor, and I'm able to record those again on a much more relaxed timetable than it would have been. Around this time also, again, sort of mid to late August, I got more of a sense of what the actual filming was going to entail. They are setting up a containment bubble at the Rio in Vegas. The Rio is not currently open to the public, so when I get to the airport, there will be a Fool Us van waiting for me, and I will be driven by myself from the airport to the loading dock at the Rio, where I will have my temperature taken and probably nose swabbed, I assume, and then I will be admitted into the bubble. That's definitely a downside from what it would have been like to be on the show in the past, but I'm not complaining because I'm excited to be on, and frankly I have nothing to compare it to, so it's going to be a lot weirder for the rest of the crew than it will be for me, having not been through the experience ever. So more on that as it develops, certainly. On September 1st, I did a virtual meeting with Michael Close, who is the magic consultant on Fool Us. We did a great Skype session where he had watched the video, he had some notes. Again, every note was great and valid, and I was able to implement. This was actually the day before first rehearsal had been scheduled, a Zoom rehearsal on September 2nd with a lot of the key decision makers. And so I worked really hard the evening of the 1st to implement the changes that Mr. Close had suggested, and was able to pretty much pull that off by the next day. During that call, we officially confirmed that it's going to be Allison Hannigan helping out with the routine, which is really exciting. I wasn't sure what they were doing in terms of spectators, but they basically said, unless there's a reason it has to be someone random, Allison will already be there and will already be in the bubble, and so why not use her? So that's good news. The day after the rehearsal, I basically had submitted my script with the updates that I had talked with Andrew and Lincoln about, and I got a rewrite back from them. And again, in pretty much every instance, I agree with and am on board with their notes and changes. In general, the overarching theme was that they want me to take out any uncertainty that this painting actually does have X-ray abilities. In the original scripting, it was more like allegedly and so-called and that kind of a thing. They wanted it clearer and just saying, nope, here's the thing. Here's a painting. It gives you Xray vision, but it doesn't work for me, so let's try it with Allison. And then also they want me to continue throughout the scripting to sprinkle reminders that, use the X-ray power, use the power of the painting, channel Sir Willoughby. So basically, if somebody has tuned in late or isn't hanging on my every word, that they will still get the gist of what's going on. And then I also had some things built in for a regular volunteer on stage who might not be as willing to play along or might be confused about something. And so a lot of those lines got cut because once we realized that I'm going to be working with Allison, who is a professional, who is not going to try and, mess with me or be confused by something, she's just going to play along. And so let's just present this as a thing that actually does what I say it does. I've been working on that new script ever since. It'll be almost a month between when I got the new script and when I have another rehearsal with them. And I will tell you, it's been really difficult. That's been the most difficult part so far is the script is, if it was a completely new script, I would have had it down so much sooner. But the fact that it is words that in many cases I've been saying for many years, but then every now and then a little line added here or swapping a word here, that's been the hardest part. I've recorded myself an MP3 of me reading through the script, the new one, and then just listening to it over and over again in the car or whenever I have time. The car is particularly nice though, because then I'll pause it for a while and then I will recite the script. I will speak it, and it's just been through that repetition, just beating the new one into my head and trying to push the old one out. But that process has definitely been crazy. But again, thankful for normally this process would be condensed and in many cases happen on site. From what I understand, there will be a technical rehearsal on site, but there will not be any substantial changes made to script or to the blocking or what have you. So the fact that this is all happening during a pandemic means I had the luxury of a month to internalize all of those script changes, as opposed to overnight or a day or two, as it might have been in pre-COVID times. So trying to see some silver linings, that's definitely one of them. Tomorrow is October 2nd, which will be my second video rehearsal with a lot of the producer decision maker folks, and I'm looking forward to that. I've got the script pretty well down now, but I want to make sure that it's all still paired properly with the actions. There are some actions that I was associating with lines of the script that aren't there anymore, so I just want to make sure that all that is still linked up. But most of the changes that came out of the first rehearsal were script changes, not action changes. So I don't have a lot of muscle memory to try and overcome. So I'm really excited, and the next 20 days are going to be wild and crazy, and I'm looking forward to having this video record of all that went down when I got to be on Penn Teller Fool Us in the middle of a pandemic. So that is my report from July 16th up until October 1st, and stay tuned for more installments.